Okay, so now we're going to fill out the table of values that's in your worksheet. The difference between your table and mine is I have rotated mine 90 degrees. I've made it vertical instead of horizontal so that there was room for us to write all of the answers. So your top row is this first column that I'm doing right now. And you can see that the column headers or the row headers for you, the column headers for you are the row headers for me. So we're going to start filling out this table and we're going to reference all of the percentages from our first graph on the first page when filling out this table. So the best way to picture a question like this is that you have 1,000 people on your lawn that are, or in a room, that are proportionally representative of the US population as it pertains to race and correctional system population. So, of those 1,000 people that you have on your lawn, we want to find out how many of them are in the correctional system. I'm going to say this one more time and I'm not going to keep repeating it. This isn't how many people are in the correctional system at any given time. And it doesn't even represent individuals in the correctional system. It represents proportionally how many of them, how many people have entered the correctional system throughout the course of the past year, even if it's just for an overnight stay, and even if the same person has entered it twice. So when I say we're counting how many proportionally have been in the correctional system, we're more counting each person there is going to raise up a little sign saying how many times they've been in the correctional system in the past year. And that's going to be a little bit more accurate. But I'm not going to keep repeating that because it gets cumbersome. I will probably say it one more time at the end. So in the US, 0.74% of people are in the correctional system throughout the course of a year. So this means 0.74 per 100 people are in the correctional system. And we are multiplying this by 1,000 people in the room. So for every 1,000 people, for the 1,000 people in the room, 0.74 out of every 100 of them are in the correctional system. So we get 7.4 people in the room would have been in the correctional system. And we want to find out how many of those people in the room are white. So your percentage of people who are white is 64% of the population in the US is white. So 64 per 100 times the 1,000 people in the room means 640 of them are white. How many white people are in the correctional system? This is where things get a little bit confusing. So 39% of the correctional system is white. This isn't 39% of the 640 white people, and this isn't 39% of the 1,000 people in the room. It's 39% of the people in the correctional system are white. So 39% of that 7.4 people are white. So 39 per 100 times the 7.4. people are white. So that gets us 2.88 is enough, because remember, I'm only going to keep these front two digits and I'm going to round up. So this is 2.9 people in the correctional system are white. Again, we've got 1,000 people in your yard. It's nice to picture that you have a little set aside portion for people who've been in the correctional system that has 7.4 people in it. And of those 7.4 people, 2.9 of them are white. So we're going to do this with the black population. 13% of the population is black, so we need 13 per 100 times the 1,000 that we have gives us 130 people in your backyard are black. 40% of the people in the correctional system are black. So again, this isn't 40% of 130, it's 40% of this 7.4 number. So 40 per 100 times 7.4 is 2.96. Look at these two numbers, round this third one up, so we get 3.0. And that 0.0 is necessary because it tells us how many significant digits we have. Okay. Our Latinx population is, we've got 16% of the general population is Latinx. So 16%, 16 per 100 of the people on our lawn, which is 1,000 of them, are Latinx, which means 160 of them are Latinx. Now, 19% of the 19% of the correctional system population is Latinx. So 19 of 100 people in our criminal justice system, which in our little lawn example is 7.4 people, are Latinx. So that is 1.40, which means it's just 1.4. Okay, so this one's fairly straightforward because we started off with knowing exactly how many people are on our lawn. Our next problem is going to be a little bit less straightforward because what we know is how many of the people on our lawn are black. So we need to use that information to find out how many people are actually on our lawn. So we're going to set up a ratio. And we want the result of the ratio to be, let me restart. We know how many black people are on our lawn. And we want to know how many people total are on our lawn. Okay, so we're going to set up a ratio of black people in the census and total people in the U.S. Census. So our final ratio is going to be 100 on the left, and we want to find out the answer on the right. And the basis for this ratio is going to be how many, what percent of Black people are in the country as measured by the census, which is 13 of every 100. Now we're going to take this and we need to turn 13 into 100. So remember, we do that by going through 1. So we divide by 13 first to get 1, and then we multiply by 100. And what we do on one side of the proportion, we need to do on the other. So we're going to take 100 and divide it by 13, and then multiply it by 100. And what we get is 769 point, oh, we don't even need a point, sorry. So 769 is approximately what we get, and we need to round this for significant figures. So we look at the first 2 digits and round the third digit up, and we get 770. So we know that 770 people are on our lawn, and 100 of them are Black. And now the whole problem is easy again. We just go right back to what we were doing before, when we had 1,000 people on our lawn. It just requires a little bit more putting stuff in the calculator, because 770 isn't quite as convenient to multiply by as 1,000 is. So in our U.S. correctional system, we have, just a second, I gotta remember what percent of, 0.74%. So 0.74% of the people on our lawn are in the correctional justice system. So 0.74 out of 100 people on our lawn, so times 770, are in our criminal justice system. So this is 5.69, which turns into 5.7. Now, of the people on our lawn, how many of them are white? We're going to take our white population is 64%. So 64 per 100 times the 770 people on our lawn is 492, which turns into 490. And then we know that 39% of people in the correctional system are white. Again, this is 39% of 5.7, not 39% of 490. So 39 per 100 times 5, oops, got ahead of myself, times 5.7 equals 2.22, which turns into 2.2. So that's the number of people in our little partitioned out area on our lawn that are white and in the criminal justice system. We don't need to answer how many Black people are in the census or on our lawn, because we've already handled that. So of the people on our lawn, how many are Black and in the correctional system? That would be 40% of the people on our lawn that have already been separated out into the criminal justice system. So this is 40 out of 100 times 5.7, which gives us 2.28, and that turns into 2.3. Finally, the Latinx population, that is 16% of the people on our lawn, so 16 out of 100 times 770, which is 123, which turns into 120. Emma, in his room, there's a box of them. Okay. Okay, so now our final question is how many Latinx people are in the criminal justice system that we've set up on our lawn? And that is 19%. Again, not 19% of the people on our lawn, not 19% of the Latinx population on our lawn, but 19 out of 100 times the 5.7 people that we've set aside. Which gives us 1.08, which turns into 1.1. Okay, so again, once we found our number of people on the lawn, the rest of this all became quite simple. So on this next question, we know how many Latinx people are in our criminal justice system on our lawn. So we can't just jump straight to how many people are on our lawn, but first we need to figure out how many people are in the little partitioned out criminal justice system on our lawn, correctional system on our lawn. So we go up here and we're going to start by finding out how many people are in our correctional system. So we're going to set up a proportion again, and that's going to be Latinx people in the correctional system to just everyone in the correctional system. Our final answer is going to be 0.52, and this is where we want our answer to go. And we're going to use our proportion or percent as our basis for converting over to this answer. And that is that 19%, 19 of every 100 people in the criminal justice system is Latinx. Now, I can look at this and say that I'm going to divide both sides by 38 in order to get our answer. If you can do that, that is fantastic. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep with the thing that we know works, which is first getting us to 1 by dividing by 19. Oops. There we go. Dividing by 19 and then multiplying by 0.5. We're going to do that same thing to the other side. Divide by 19 and multiply by 0.5. And we get 2.63, which turns into 2.6. So on our lawn, in our little fake criminal justice correctional system, we have 2.6 people. So now we need to use this information to find out how many people are on our lawn total, which means we need to set up another proportion over here. And that proportion is going to be correctional system to census. Okay, so we know our final result that we want is that we want, let's partition this off. There we go. We want 2.6, 2.6 people in the correctional system, and we need to find out how many people on our lawn. And we know that our starting ratio is 0.74 of every 100 people on our correctional system. I'm just going to swipe over to make sure that's accurate. Yes. Okay. So now we just need to figure out how to get from 0.74 to 2.6, which we divide by 0.74 to get 1. Oops. And then we multiply by 2.6 to get 2.6. So we need to do the same thing to 100. I'm just going to put that in my calculator really quick. And I get that there are 351 people on my lawn, but of course we need to account for significant figures, so that becomes 350. And now, just like before, we can use this information to fill out the rest of our information. Okay, so in the white census, there are 64% of people, or in the census, 64% of people are white. So 64 out of 100 times 350. And so that is going to be 224, which becomes 220. Okay, so now I know that 39% of the people in the correctional system are white. So 39 out of 100 times the number of people in the correctional system on our lawn, which is 2.6, and I get 1.01, which becomes 1.0. Now, how many of the people on our lawn are black? That is going to be 13% of them. So 13 out of 100 times 350 is 45.5, which becomes 46. 40% of the people in the correctional system on our lawn are black. So that's 40 out of 100 times 2.6, which is equal to 1.04, which rounds to 1. Rounds to 1.0. How many of the people on our lawn are Latinx? And that is going to be 16% of them. So 16 of 100 times 350 is 56 of them. And then we already know that 0.5 of the people in the correctional system on our lawn are Latinx. Okay, final problem. And this is where we switch over to hypotheticals. Okay, switch over to the abstract. So we're just going to do this so we have it set up for however many people on my lawn. So the number of people on our lawn is X. Okay, that's just a placeholder. And we're going to use that to figure out all of the other populations. The reason this is useful is because had we known this at the beginning, we wouldn't have had to figure everything out anew each time. We could have just plugged in all of the values. Now, that wouldn't have been great because we had to figure out how to plug in all of those values, and we wouldn't have been able to figure this out from the beginning. But now that we have it, we have it. So there are X people on my lawn. In order to figure out how many of them are in the criminal justice system, I know that it's 0.74%. And I keep saying criminal justice, I mean correctional system. So that is 0.74 out of 100 of them are in the criminal or in the correctional system on my lawn. And all we're going to do is simplify the parts that we can and multiply them by X. So this is just 0.0074X. Easy peasy. 64% of the people on my lawn are white. So 64 per 100 times X, and that is just 0.64X. Now, this is where it gets just a slight bit more complicated. You have to think a little bit more. 39% of people in the correctional system on my lawn are white. So that means 39 per 100 times the number of people in the criminal justice system on my lawn are white. And so again, we just simplify our numbers and we get that 0.00288 of them are white. And again, we need to keep track of sig figs, so this becomes 0.0029X people on my lawn are both white and in the criminal justice system. So now to figure out how many people of those X people on my lawn are black, we're going to remember that 13% of them are black. So 13 out of 100 times X, which is 0.13X. 40% of people in the criminal justice system on my lawn are black. So that is 40 out of 100 times the number in the criminal justice system on my lawn, which is 0.0074X. So this comes out to be 0.00296X, but we need to use sig figs. So this is 0.0030X of the people on my lawn, or this is, are in the criminal justice system and black. So Latinx people on my lawn are 16%. So 16 out of 100 times X is just 0.16X. 19% of the people in the correctional system on my lawn are Latinx. And so this works out to be 19 out of 100 times 0.0074x. And I shouldn't have put a times here. That was an x. Oops. I should have put a dot. Okay. So that becomes 0.00140x. We need to account for significant figures. It says 0.0014x of the people on my lawn are both Latinx and in the correctional system. If this isn't making a ton of sense to you, if you're just barely hanging on, that's fine. We're going to do this a lot. And it will make more sense over time. This X part is preparing us for the future. It is not something that you need for the rest of this problem. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, so now we are going to compare our data graphically. So we're going to compare our census population to our correctional facility population for our various ethnicities. The census population is going to be our X axis, so we're going to label that right now. Census population. Our correctional system population or correctional facility population is going to be our y-axis. Our lower bound represents the lowest amount our data can go, the lowest number we expect to put on this graph. And our upper bound is the highest number we expect to put on this graph. So our lower bound for our census population is 0. Let me shrink this graph up just a little bit if I can. Looks like, there we go. So we'll put a 0 in this corner because our lower bound for both is 0. Our upper bound for our census population is 1,000. And then our interval is the amount of each of these spaces in between them. So we're going to count the number of spaces in between, and then from there we'll divide to get our interval. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we take 1,000, we divide by 10. This tells us we're going to count by 100s. And we'll go ahead and label those 100, 200, 300. We don't actually have to label all of them. I usually run out of room. So we'll go to 500 for here. And then 1,000. So our interval up here is 100. For our correctional facility population, our interval is going to be 1. So again, we just label our graph. You can label them every 1 or every 2 or every 5. That's really up to how you visually perceive the graph. You do need to, I wouldn't label them fewer than 5 because it gets really hard for your eyes to just quickly pick out the spaces in between for anything larger than 5. But 2s or 5s or every single one is acceptable. Okay, so now we're going to go look at the chart that we just filled out, and we're going to look at our Black population because that's what it says to do. It says use a blue cover, graph the number of Black people in the correctional system versus those registered in the census. So our first point of data from that chart, based on having 1,000 people on our lawn, we know that 130 of them are Black, and 3 of those people are in the correctional system. So we go find 130, which is about a third of the way between 100 and 200. And we go find 3, and we're going to put a point there, representing that for 130 Black people on our lawn, 3 of them are in the correctional system. We'll do that again with the second row from our table, and that is for 100 people on our lawn. We have approximately 2.3 of them in the correctional system. So that point will go right about here. And then our final piece from our chart is that for 46 people on our lawn who are Black, it's right about here, just under halfway to 100. 1.1 of them are in the correctional system. So that's just a little bit above 1. Right there. And then because of the way these are all proportions, we'll have 0, 0 as a point for all of them. Now you're going to take a ruler and draw a straight line on your paper. I'm going to do the best I can. It's a little bit harder on a computer. We're going to draw a straight line representing that graph all the way up. Okay, so, and we're going to go ahead and put a key over here that blue represents our Black population. Question 17 has us do the same thing with our white and Latinx populations. So we'll get our red marker over here. We'll label it as white. So for every, again, going back to our chart, for every 640 white people, 2.9 of them are in the correctional population. So 640 is about halfway, a little under halfway between 600 and 700. And 2.9 will just be a little bit under 3. There we go. For 490 white people, so that's just under 500. 2.2 of them are in our correctional system, so a bit above 2. There we go. And for 224 white people, 1 of them is in the correctional system. So 224 is about a quarter of the way between 200 and 300. And 1 is pretty easy to identify. And again, we have 0, 0 is a point. So again, these form something approximating a straight line given the amount of error in our ability to precisely mark things. And I'm going to draw a line connecting them. And there we go. So next up is our Latinx population. Let me get the right Black. There we go. There we go. Going to our first line of the data that we filled out, we have for every 160 Latinx people, 1.4 of them are in our correctional system. So 160 is a bit over halfway between 100 and 200, and 1.4 is about a little under halfway between 1 and 2. So we get something right about there. And then for 120 people, Latinx people, 1.1 of them are in the correctional system. So that's about here. And for 56 of them, about half of them are in the correctional system. So that's about here. And we, again, have that 0, 0 point. It approximates a straight line. And I'm going to draw my line. Now, these lines aren't going to be perfect. I don't expect perfect from you. If I wanted perfect, I could use a straight line tool, or I could use a graphing tool like Excel to show you a perfect graph. This is more just about getting accustomed to graphing and looking at the data graphically. When we want exact answers, that's when we do it algebraically. But graphing is a good visual tool for people. And I want you to do it yourself rather than do it precisely, because that practice is good for you. So we're going to look at our question. Oh, there we go. 17 has, does this track with what you saw in questions 9, 10, and 11? And yes, it does. What tracks is that are Black people, the line connecting the census, the line is much steeper. It has a steeper slope. More people, more Black people from our census population have visited correctional facilities. Our Latinx people are about in the middle, and much fewer white people have visited a correctional system compared to the census population. So this is just another way of getting your data that's useful, because people interact with data in different ways. And the more ways we can make them interact with this data, the more they can internalize these numbers and what they mean and find something that makes sense to them. And that's our goal with math, is to use it to clarify information. So there you go. Thank you.